Hello, you beautiful YouTube Tarkovians. My name is Onepeg, and this is another video that has to do with audio. Now, I want to first say, before we get into all of this, that I'm not really about your moral compass. I already assume that there's going to be plenty of comments about equalization and it being cheating, because honestly, if you were going to say that about a compressor, which is laughable, you're definitely going to say it about this. Just understand that I don't plan on responding to those. So let the hate flow through you if that's going to be the thing. I'm going to save my comments and responses for those that are positive, live a better life. Maybe put that negative energy into something better. Just saying. Anyway, without further ado, here we go. Let me first start off by saying that this is in no way going to be superior to using the active headsets in Tarkov. The simple reason is because the headsets in Tarkov utilize the in-game sound and apply the equalization and compression that they do before the sounds in the game are rendered, not after. Like how on a guitar you can adjust the bass and treble knobs instead of having the sound guy do it at a concert venue. If you've already grown accustomed to a certain sound profile via sword-ins or contacts, or my personal favorite, the M32s, you can just stay the course and stick with those. That being said, for those of you like me who wish to have a little bit more customization and potentially delve further into the accusations of,
"Oh my gosh, he must be cheating,"
then this video will help explain how to use equalization to your advantage. I say help explain because this video will not be able to just give you EQ settings. It doesn't really work like that. Aside from everyone having one of hundreds, if not more so, of different brand, make, and model of earphones, earbuds, headphones, in-ear monitors, speakers, whatever, people in general will literally hear things differently. Everyone, based on the shape of our ears alone, hears frequencies slightly differently than each other, depending on a variety of factors. And that isn't even taking into account someone's potential hearing loss or potential hearing damage that would further skew things for them. So, this video will show you how to roughly adjust things using an EQ, but you will have to do the rest of this via your own experimentation. Okay, so first up, what the hell's an equalizer? Okay, an equalizer, and I'm just going to call it an EQ from now on, is isolating a certain frequency or range of frequencies of sound and either suppressing them or boosting the volume of those frequencies. That's it. And I'd argue that most people are more familiar with an EQ than they realize. If you've ever fiddled with your car's bass and treble settings, for instance, that is a 2-band equalizer. If you've ever listened to something on Spotify or Apple Music and selected one of the sound presets that say things like bass and treble, R&B, or the usual go-to of rock, those are also EQ presets where the app has a library of predetermined settings and you would choose the one that you believe fits the music that you're listening to the best. This is no different when it comes to video games. For people that love to hear loud booming and rumbling explosions, that's mainly comprised of bass response. The sound of brushing against your clothing and all of those high, shrill, sweeping sounds, that is mainly the higher end of our audible spectrum. My voice, the one that's talking to you right now, as are just about every other voice you would hear, is somewhere in between, in the middle range. This is the frequency range that megaphones sit in, because if I were to remove most of the high and low end from my voice in this recording that I'm making for you right now with a simple EQ change, and then simply just add a little bit of reverb, all of a sudden, now it sounds as though I'm talking to you on a loudspeaker, maybe in a school cafeteria. Of course, I'd want to turn off the auto-tune before I did that. And that was done just using a simple 3-band equalizer of high, mid, and low. Not very hard. The audible frequency range of humans is from around 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Bass or lows are considered to be somewhere between 20 and 300 Hz. Mid-range or mids are 300 to 4,000, and treble or highs are 4,000 to 20,000. These are, of course, not fixed definitions, but it gives us something really rough to work with. There's probably going to be some audio engineer somewhere in here that's going to slightly disagree with this, but that's okay. These frequency bands, these larger frequency ranges, are then broken up even further into subcategories, but who cares? We want to talk about video games and pew-pews, right? Most of what I'm going to show you is going to be extremely subjective. And as I said at the beginning of this video, the headsets are a godsend. Use the headsets. An equalizer is not going to help you perceive footsteps and whatnot from a further distance away. That is done by the headsets in the game. Headsets actually increase the range as part of their builds in the game code-wise by significantly more than any audio trick that you're ever going to learn in this video or any other video that I or anyone else is going to make. What I can do, though, is show you some rules to follow if you're ever finding certain sounds to be abrasive or you're looking to filter out things a little bit more like rain. To be clear, I never, ever run a raid without a pair of contacts or a set of M32s. This game just does too good of a job filtering out the unwanted sound in wearing those active headsets. What do you think about how the game sounds right now? Sounds pretty good, right? I'm wearing a set of M32 Earmer headphones that I got off of Skier at level 1. Thing is, it probably doesn't sound like when you wear a set of M32s, right? Well, that's because, bone stock, the M32 Earmers actually sound like this. See, when you listen to a song on the radio, those songs are generated and mastered with what's known as a flat EQ. No boosting to any signals at all prior to releasing it out to your eardrums. Now, in the studio, they will do a little bit of modifying of instrumentation, but mostly it's just setting ratios and making sure that everything is at a flat level to be released. Modifying how that sounds between your music player and your ears is up to you. Okay, so I'm using a PreSonus 16-channel mixer that retails for about $1,000. This is obviously overkill and not something that people need to do or utilize. But in this case, this is what I've got, because this is what I like to use. I've been a PreSonus guy for a long time. But let's just listen to a quick track off of stuff that you can find of mine on Spotify called Panzer. Now I'm just going to fade this in. You can hear the audio, right? Now, this is with the mix on, where I already have the EQ settings set up here, which is what these on buttons are. But if I turn them off, you'll hear the difference. This is a flat EQ. See, it sounds a little what I call tinny. So if I want to remove some of that tinniness or add a little bit of detail, first and foremost, somewhere around, I don't know, 6,000 hertz, I have a shelf here where I'm giving it just 2 dB of gain. You can hear a little bit of that extra rasp, but you can overdo it. You notice I can turn this up. See, it just becomes way too harsh and bright. So we're going to dial that back. See? Already a little bit more appealing to the ear. But it's still driving those mids awful hard. So we want to pull that back a little bit. Somewhere around 1 kilohertz. And that's not bad. But we're still missing that punch, you know? You want to feel that hit a little bit harder. So we dial that in and add a little 6 dB gain around 100 hertz or so as another shelf. And that's it. When you start getting really into it, this is one of those things that will take you super far down a rabbit hole. You ever wonder how karaoke tracks get made? Well, this is how. They isolate specific frequencies from someone's voice and start omitting the larger parts of them, so only the smallest part of that vocalist is still left in the song. In theory, you could attempt to do something similar for Tarkov with boosting footstep audio, but I'm going to explain why this isn't going to be something that works on a practical level. See, footstep sounds in Tarkov cover an extremely wide range of frequencies, and those sounds are also overlapped by other sounds in the game. The sound permeates everything from 100 hertz, that bassier level, up to 2000 hertz, up through to most of the mid-range. Rain also embodies that exact frequency range. Boosting those levels ends up also boosting much of the foliage sounds, as foliage, wind, etc. also is heavily in this area. All you can do is dial away small parts of them so that it doesn't hurt your ears or sound as abrasive. So what you can do in truth is not much. Tarkov's soundscape is smart in that you can't really omit certain weather and ambient sounds because it would remove vital parts of what it is that you're trying to hear in order to be able to get what you're trying to get. So you're taking away the exact things that you need. So instead, for people looking to do some EQing, try to aim for audio that's just less abrasive to your own ears and create a better sound profile that's just more attractive to you as a listener, like what I've created when I play. Now, for the purpose of showing this to you, graphically speaking, in a graphic EQ setting, I'm going to just use something simple like Nahimic, which provides an equalizer. Now, there are a lot of different equalizer solutions out there, and I personally do not use this for myself. Just for illustrating it, I'm going to show you how these work. If you notice, there really isn't much here in terms of gauging anything. So you're going to have to play with a graphic EQ like this where there's going to be some boosting, but you're going to be doing it by ear because there is no representation numerically of how many dB you are giving this up or down. So for something like Sorden's, your profile would want to look something closer to this. Maybe taking just a skosh out of 250 and everything under that, you're going to try and take away a couple of decibels. Now I'm guessing that this is a couple of decibels. And in doing so, that's where you're getting that sound. Conversely, if you're using something like a set of Comtacs or Razors or M32s, instead what you want to do is give yourself a little bit more bass response because you're not going to be getting that anywhere else. And then dialing back on the mids and then dialing back on the highs a little bit. And the reason for this is because the brush sounds when you're walking through those bushes and getting scraped up by leaves and everything else, that's where this is right here. That's in that high, like wispy SSSS kind of stuff. That's all the way up here around like 16K. So you want to dial this back. Now they're already kind of mid-heavy. And again, this isn't going to do much in the case of footsteps further away or not so far away, whatever. You're not really getting anything out of those. But this is the way that you would want to dial in something that is more like high-end and like mid-heavy. The GSSHs are another perfect example where you want to pull back on the mids a lot in the case of a GSSH. My last point here, and the thing that I really just want to reiterate, is that this is not going to in any way replace in-game active headsets. The in-game active headsets are the things that will actually allow you to hear people from further away. Well, that combined with your perception skill. An equalizer isn't going to remove those ambient sounds and get it isolated to where you're suddenly going to be able to hear footsteps more because of the way that those sounds overlap the footsteps. Because really that's what you're listening for is footsteps. I will say on the bassier end of things, when people are walking on wood, that thunk noise that is made when people walk on wood is more heavily located around like 125 to 250 hertz. So there is a little bit of something there. But again, you're still going to be amplifying larger portions of the ambient noise that exists all throughout the Tarkov world. So you're really not doing anything for yourself there. This is merely just a way for you to find a little bit more comfortability in what it is that you're listening to and allow you to be able to experience the dynamic sounds of Tarkov without that harsh under or overtone of what it is that you're trying to experience. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.